So the first question is, do I really need to train to failure? And my answer immediately is no. You absolutely do not need to be training to failure. In fact, it has been recently shown that when you train to failure, you actually are making the recovery process take longer. You don't need to go all the way to failure to trigger muscle growth. You can stop 1 to 3 reps from failure. So in essence, in your normal training sessions, you don't need to go to failure. If you do, you need to pay attention to giving yourself enough recovery. Now, having said that, how do you know where your failure point is, how close to failure you are if you have never trained to failure? So for that reason, I do think it is very useful to spend some period of time actually training to failure, and only though on exercises that are safe for you to do so on. So I would not do it on something like a squat or an RDL or deadlift, these kinds of things. But it is very safe to do on things like a bicep curl, on a pull up, on a pull down machine, these kinds of things where if you can't go all the way, you are not in danger. Nothing's going to fall on you. You're not going to hurt yourself. It's not going to be your back that gives out. That would be my advice, is to practice going to failure on some safe exercises where you won't hurt yourself. So really imagine, how can I hurt myself going to failure on a particular exercise? If you think there is some chance of hurting yourself, then don't go to failure on that exercise. Don't practice on that one. Practice on something else. And you'll begin to know what it feels like when you're getting close. Now, one thing that you will notice is when you get closer is this involuntary slowdown. And that is a really good indicator that you are getting close. So video yourself and look at how fast your reps go in the beginning of your set versus towards the end of your set. And if they're looking exactly the same, then you're not going close enough to failure because you're not seeing the involuntary slowdown. So to summarize, you do not need to train to failure normally. And I don't necessarily recommend it because when you train to failure, it requires more recovery time to recover from that session. So training to 1 to 3 reps away from failure is enough. And then on the other hand, it is good to sometimes test training to failure so you really understand where that line is. And then you can accurately guess where your 1 to 3 reps from failure might be.